In the vast expanse of the Theta Galaxy, year 2893, the Ilari homeworld shimmered like a jewel in the cosmic darkness. The light of two suns cast a perpetual golden hue across its surface, illuminating sprawling cities that blended seamlessly with the natural landscape. It was a vision of harmony, a testament to the Ilari's unwavering commitment to peace. But today, that peace was shattered. High Elder Mina stood before the planetary council, her luminescent skin pulsing with an unusual cadence of distress. Her forearms trembled as she activated the holographic display. "They've destroyed our outer colonies," she said, her melodic voice cracking. "The Harvac have given us an ultimatum: surrender our world or face extinction." The council chamber fell silent. In their 5,000-year recorded history, the Ilari had never faced war. Their society had evolved without the concept of armed conflict, developing instead through cooperation and intellectual pursuits. "We've sent distress signals to all known civilizations," announced Counselor Jaren. "The Galactic Confederation has declined intervention. They cite potential losses as exceeding strategic benefits." "Who would help beings they've never met?" asked another counselor, despair evident in his voice. As if in answer, a communication channel abruptly opened on their main display. The face that appeared was alien to them, a species they had only read about in xenobiology texts. The being had tan-skinned dark eyes with visible whites and wore a uniform adorned with insignias they didn't recognize. "This is Admiral Sarah Kovac of Earth Defense Force responding to your distress signal. We're prepared to assist. Please acknowledge." The council members exchanged bewildered glances. Earth, the notorious death world at the edge of the galaxy, a planet so harsh that its inhabitants had evolved through constant struggle. Humans were known across the galaxy as resilient survivors with a history steeped in warfare. They were the last species the peace-loving Ilari had expected to answer their call. Admiral Sarah Kovac stood on the bridge of the EDF Valiant, her flagship. At 62 Earth years, her face bore the marks of countless battles. A thin scar traced her left jawline, and her once black hair was now steel gray, cut in a practical military style. Yet her posture remained unbending, her gaze sharp and alert. "Admiral, the Council of Earth has officially denied knowledge of our expedition," reported Commander Ellis, her executive officer. "We're on our own." Sarah nodded, unsurprised. Plausible deniability, smart politics. She turned to face the assembled bridge crew. 60 ships, 15,000 personnel, all volunteers who had responded to her call. Most were veterans like herself, people who understood what it meant to fight for those who couldn't fight for themselves. "The Harvac have never encountered humanity," she continued. "Their pattern is clear. They target peaceful species, strip their worlds of resources, and move on. Their technology is advanced, but they've grown complacent. They don't expect resistance." She activated the tactical display showing the Ilari system. "We've got two advantages: surprise and adaptability. Deathworlders, as they call us," a small smile crossed her lips, "have quite the reputation for being difficult to kill." Ambassador Rui Shen, the only diplomat who had volunteered for the mission, stepped forward. At 45, he was younger than Sarah, but carried himself with the quiet confidence of someone accustomed to navigating complex cultural waters. "Admiral, I've been studying Ilari culture," he said. "They have no concept of warfare, not even for self-defense. Their language doesn't even have words for enemy or weapon. This mission will require more than military intervention. We need to help them understand the necessity of what we're doing." Sarah nodded. "That's why you're here, Ambassador. My job is to keep the Harvac from wiping them out. Your job is to help them understand why we fight." The journey to the Ilari homeworld would take 3 weeks at maximum FTL. As the fleet departed Earth space under radio silence, Sarah retreated to her quarters. On her desk sat a framed photo, a younger version of herself standing beside a tall man in a similar uniform both smiling against the backdrop of Mars's rusty landscape. "Well, David," she murmured to her late husband's image, "looks like I'm not staying retired after all." The Ilari system appeared on their long-range scanners exactly as expected. What they hadn't anticipated was the sheer beauty of Ilari Prime, a world of azure oceans and emerald continents, with cities that gleamed like delicate crystalline structures in the dual sunlight. "Harvac vessels detected," announced Lieutenant Commander Reeves from Tactical. 17 capital ships in orbit around the fourth moon. They appear to be mining. They're stripping resources to build more ships before they launch their main assault, Sarah concluded. "Standard Harvac procedure according to intelligence. Good. They don't know we're here." The fleet maintained position at the edge of the system, using the asteroid field as cover. Sarah ordered a small delegation to accompany her to the planet's surface. Ambassador Shen, a security detail led by Captain Maya Rodriguez, and a handful of specialists. When they landed in the designated area outside the Ilari capital city, Sarah was struck by the stark contrast to Earth's military installations. There were no defenses, no checkpoints, just a welcoming party of Ilari officials standing in an open plaza surrounded by towering spirals of living architecture. The Ilari were tall, slender beings with 4 arms and iridescent skin that changed hues with their emotions. Their large, multifaceted eyes regarded the humans with what Sarah interpreted as a mixture of hope and apprehension. "I am High Elder Mina," said the foremost Ilari, her skin shifting to a warm gold as she performed a graceful gesture with her upper arms. "We welcome Earth beings to Ilari Prime with grateful hearts." Rui stepped forward and attempted to replicate the gesture. "We come in friendship and solidarity, High Elder. The people of Earth heard your call and couldn't stand by while your civilization faced extinction." As they were escorted into the city, Sarah observed everything with a tactical eye. The buildings were works of art, grown rather than built, shaped from living materials that responded to the needs of their inhabitants. The streets were wide and flowing, filled with Ilari going about their daily lives despite the threat looming above them. "Your city is beautiful," Sarah commented to Mina, "but I don't see any defenses. No barriers, no security forces." Mina's skin rippled with confusion. "Why would we need such things? Until the Harvac came, we had no enemies." "That's precisely what makes you targets," Sarah replied, trying to keep the frustration from her voice. "Species like the Harvac prey on those who can't or won't defend themselves." "We understand this now," said another Ilari, stepping forward. He was younger than Mina, his movements more energetic. "I am Thalin, assigned to be your liaison. Some of us have been studying your species since you responded to our call." Sarah raised an eyebrow. "Studying us? Your history, your conflicts, your concept of defense." Thalin explained, his skin shifting to a deep blue. "Many find it disturbing, but I find it necessary to understand." The delegation was brought to a grand chamber where the full planetary council awaited. As Ambassador Shen outlined their proposed defense strategy, Sarah watched the reactions of the council members. Most displayed colors she interpreted as distress or discomfort, but a few, including Thalen, showed hues she hadn't seen before. "You propose to engage the Harvac in combat," stated one elder, her skin paling to an almost white shade. "To kill them." "Yes," Sarah replied directly. "They intend to kill all of you. Self-defense is not aggression, it's survival. But to take lives, even those who threaten us." Another counselor began. "With respect," interrupted Captain Rodriguez, "the Harvac have already taken lives. Your outer colonies weren't evacuated. They were eradicated. Those people are gone." A ripple of color change swept through the assembly. "We have reviewed your proposal," Mina finally said. "We cannot actively participate in violence, but we will not impede your efforts to protect our world." It wasn't the full cooperation Sarah had hoped for, but it was a start. As they left the chamber, Thalin approached Sarah. "Admiral, there are others like me, Ilari, who believe we must learn to defend ourselves. We are few, but we wish to help. Sarah studied the young Ilari. Meet me tonight. Bring anyone who thinks like you do. That night, in a secluded garden outside the city, Sarah was surprised to find not just Thalin, but nearly 30 Ilari waiting. Their skin colors were subdued, as if they were consciously trying to hide their emotions. We have formed a study group, Thalin explained. Learning about defense, about Earth, about fighting. Many call it perversion of our ways, but we see it as evolution. You understand what you're asking? Sarah questioned. Combat isn't theoretical, it changes you. A female Ilari stepped forward. We have witnessed the destruction of our colonies through sensor data. Change has already been forced upon us. We choose the nature of that change. Sarah nodded slowly. Then we'll start with the basics. Not weapons mindset. The warrior's first tool is not their weapon, but their resolve. Over the following days, while the human fleet remained hidden, and Ambassador Shen continued diplomatic efforts, Sarah and her security team began training Thalin's group. The Ilari were physically delicate compared to humans, but they learned quickly and had natural advantages. 4 arms gave them unique handling capabilities, and their heightened perception allowed them to process visual information faster than humans. Not all Ilari approved. Protests began outside the diplomatic quarters, where the humans stayed. Some carried symbols, representing purity and peace, chanting phrases that Thalin translated as "war corrupts peace" and "violence begets violence." They're not wrong, Sarah admitted to Rui as they watched the protesters from a window. War does change you, but extinction changes you more permanently. Rui sighed. Their philosophical objection to violence is so deeply ingrained in their culture that even facing annihilation, many can't overcome it. It's both admirable and frustrating. We don't need all of them, Sarah replied. Just enough to support our operations planetside while the fleet engages the Harvac in space. Their planning time ran out sooner than expected. Lieutenant Reeves contacted Sarah with urgent news. Admiral, the Harvac have detected our presence. Their fleet is mobilizing all 23 capital ships, plus support vessels. Sarah's expression hardened. They were waiting for reinforcements. That's why they were taking their time with the mining operations. She turned to Rui. We're out of time. The Ilari need to decide, now, hide or help. When presented with the imminent threat, the Ilari Council remained divided. Mina, however, made the decision. We cannot fight, but we will provide sanctuary and support for your forces. Our medical facilities are yours. Our communications network is at your disposal. It is all we can offer. It's enough, Sarah assured her, though privately she had hoped for more. Thalen and his group, now nearly 100 strong, had a different response. We will serve as guides, as lookouts, as couriers, whatever you need that doesn't require us to directly take lives. It was a compromise Sarah could work with. The Harvac fleet emerged from behind the fourth moon with methodical precision. Their ships were biomechanical monstrosities, dark asymmetrical vessels that resembled predatory sea creatures from Earth's oceans. On the bridge of the Valiant, Sarah assessed their formation. They're arranging for a standard assault pattern. They still don't know our full capabilities. She opened a channel to all Earth vessels. This is Admiral Kovac. The Harvac have never faced humans before. They don't know what Deathworlders are capable of. Today, they learned, execute Operation Thunderclap. The human fleet, which had been hiding within the Sarin asteroid belt, suddenly dispersed in a carefully choreographed maneuver. Instead of meeting the Harvac head-on, they split into 12 battle groups, each targeting different sections of the enemy formation. Fire disruptors on my mark, Sarah ordered. 3, 2, 1, mark. Simultaneously, 12 focused energy beams struck the Harvac fleet from different angles. The alien ship's shields flickered but held. As expected, Sarah noted, Phase 2, Tactic Scatter Strike. The Earth vessels immediately broke formation again, this time using the asteroid field for cover, emerging only to fire quick volleys before disappearing again. It was a tactic born on Earth during naval guerrilla warfare, hit and run, never presenting a fixed target. The Harvack responded by sending their smaller vessels into the asteroid field to flush out the humans. It was exactly what Sarah had anticipated. "Minesweeper protocol," she commanded. Throughout the asteroid field, pre-planted explosive devices detonated, creating chains of debris that tore through the pursuing Harvack ships. 7 enemy vessels were destroyed outright, while others sustained significant damage. On the Harvack command ship, Overlord Kragan observed the battle with growing irritation. These humans fought unlike any species the Harvack had encountered. Most civilizations relied on formation, on standard military doctrine. These creatures fought like vermin, scurrying and striking from shadows. "Target their largest vessel," he ordered. "All batteries." The Harvack command ship and its escorts turned their full firepower toward the Valiant. Sarah had expected this too. "Decoy protocol active," reported Commander Ellis. "They've taken the bait." What the Harvack targeted was not the actual Valiant, but one of 3 identical ships equipped with enhanced shield generators and mirrored energy signatures. As the Harvack concentrated their attack, the real command vessels coordinated strikes against their flanks. But the Harvack were not incompetent. They quickly adapted their tactics, spreading their forces thin to counter the humans' guerrilla approach. The battle devolved into a series of small-scale engagements throughout the asteroid field and the space around Ilari Prime. "They're learning," Sarah observed grimly. "Time for the next phase. Deploy strike teams." While the space battle continued, smaller stealth vessels broke through the Harvack lines, heading for their command ship. Aboard one of these vessels was Captain Juno Gray, leader of the Special Forces unit, tasked with the most dangerous part of the mission. "Strike Team Alpha in position," she reported. "Ready to board on your command." Sarah hesitated only briefly. "Proceed, Captain. May fortune favor the bold." Using advanced stealth technology, the strike team attached their vessel to the hull of the Harvack command ship. They cut through using plasma torches and entered the alien vessel. What they found inside was nightmare fuel. The Harvack up close resembled a grotesque hybrid of insect and reptile, with multiple limbs ending in vicious claws and mandibles designed for tearing flesh. The interior of their ship was equally disturbing, organic technology that pulsed and writhed as if alive. "Stay focused," Captain Gray reminded her team. "Objective is the central control node. Plant the charges and get out." Fighting through the ship's corridors was brutal close-quarters combat. The Harvack were physically stronger than humans, but the Special Forces soldiers had trained for this, using their agility and teamwork to overcome the aliens' natural advantages. Meanwhile, the space battle reached a critical point. The human fleet had inflicted significant damage, but had also suffered losses. 5 Earth ships had been destroyed, with 3 more severely damaged. Admiral Commander Ellis reported, "The Indomitable is reporting critical systems failure. Captain Lee requests permission to execute Protocol Omega." Sarah closed her eyes briefly. Protocol Omega was a last resort tactic, a sacrificial maneuver where a dying ship would drive itself into the heart of the enemy formation and detonate its power core. "Grant permission," she said quietly. "Ensure the crew has evacuated to escape pods." On the view screen, she watched as the Indomitable, trailing plasma and debris, suddenly accelerated toward the densest cluster of Harvack vessels. The enemy ships attempted to evade, but the human vessel moved with unexpected speed, crashing into a Harvack heavy cruiser. The resulting explosion engulfed 3 enemy ships, creating a momentary gap in their formation. "All vessels exploit a breach sector 7, Sarah commanded. The human fleet converged on the gap, concentrating their firepower on the now exposed flank of the Harvack command ship. Inside that ship, Captain Gray's team had reached the central control node, a pulsating chamber that seemed to be the biomechanical heart of the vessel. They planted explosive devices strategically around the room. "Charges set. Gray reported. 15 minutes to the detonation. As they turned to leave, they found their exit blocked by a contingent of Harvac soldiers, led by a larger, more ornately armored figure, Overlord Kragan himself. "You fight well for prey," the alien hissed in a surprisingly good approximation of human speech. "But you have lost." Gray assessed their situation quickly. They were outnumbered with limited ammunition and no alternative escape route. "Admiral," she said into her comm, "we're cut off. Charges are set, but we can't reach extraction point." Sarah's voice came back tight with emotion. "Can you remote detonate?" "Affirmative, but we won't clear the blast radius." A moment of silence followed. "Then you know what needs to be done, Captain. Your sacrifice will not be forgotten." Gray looked at her team. No words were needed. They all understood the mission's importance. Every one of them had volunteered knowing they might not return. "It's been an honor, Admiral," Gray said simply. She turned to face Kragan, a defiant smile on her face. "You're right. We have lost, but so have you." Gray pressed the detonator. The explosion tore through the Harvac command ship, starting at its core and radiating outward. Without its central control node, the biomechanical vessel began to collapse in on itself, systems failing catastrophically. From the Valiant, Sarah watched the Harvac flagship disintegrate. "All vessels concentrate fire on their remaining capital ships. Don't give them time to reorganize." With their command structure destroyed and nearly half their fleet lost, the remaining Harvac ships began to retreat, abandoning their assault on Ilari Prime. Some attempted to fight on, but without coordination, they were quickly overwhelmed by the more adaptable human tactics. 3 hours later, the battle was over. The Harvac had withdrawn from the system, leaving behind the wreckage of their losses. The human fleet had suffered too. 8 ships destroyed, 11 damaged beyond immediate repair, and over 2,000 personnel lost, including Captain Gray and her entire team. As Sarah stood on the bridge watching the damage reports come in, Commander Ellis approached her. "We've won, Admiral," he said quietly. Sarah shook her head. "We've survived. There's a difference." On Ilari Prime, the aftermath of the battle was met with mixed emotions. Many Ilari struggled to process the violence they had witnessed in their skies, their skin shifting through muted colors of distress and confusion. In the Grand Council chamber, Sarah stood before the assembled leaders, her uniform still bearing the grime of the long battle. "The Harvac have retreated," she informed them. "Based on their known behavior patterns, they're unlikely to return to this system. They prefer easier targets." "And the cost?" asked Elder Mina. Her skin a somber blue-gray. 8 ships lost, 2,117 human lives. Sarah's voice remained steady, but those who knew her could hear the weight behind each word. A ripple of color change passed through the assembly hues that Thalen later told her represented shock and grief. "So many," one counselor whispered, "for a people not your own." "That's what humans do," Sarah replied simply. "We protect those who need protection." Mina approached Sarah, her movements deliberate and ceremonial. "The Ilari have existed for 5,000 years without understanding the concept of sacrifice for others outside our own kind. Today, we have learned this lesson at great cost, not to us but to you." She performed a complex gesture with all 4 arms. "We offer our deepest gratitude and sorrow for your losses." Thulin stepped forward next. "Admiral, my group requests permission to send representatives to Earth. We wish to learn more about your ways, your defenses. Not to become warriors like you, but to ensure we are never again helpless in the face of aggression." Sarah looked at the young Ilari, seeing in him something that hadn't been there before. A quiet determination, a newfound understanding of the universe's harsh realities, without losing the essential compassion that defined his species. "Permission granted," she said, "and I propose a formal alliance between our worlds, not just for defense, but for cultural exchange. There's much we could learn from each other." Ambassador Shen, who had been quietly observing, stepped forward. "The Ilari have philosophies of peace and harmony that could benefit Earth society. and we can offer protection and tactical knowledge that the Ilari now understand they need." The council deliberated briefly before Mina spoke again. "We accept this proposal. The events of these days have shown us that true peace is not merely the absence of conflict, but the presence of courage to stand for what is right." Later, as preparations began for the fleet's return journey, Thalin approached Sarah in the garden, where they had first begun training his group. "My people are divided," he admitted. "Many still believe that by embracing any aspect of warfare, we tarnish our cultural purity. They fear we will become like the Harvak conquerors' destroyers." "There's a difference between learning to fight and loving to fight," Sarah replied. "Earth's history is filled with warriors who prayed for peace even as they prepared for war." Thalin considered this, his skin shifting through thoughtful patterns of blue and green. "Before you leave, I have something for you." He presented her with a small white flower that seemed to glow from within. "This is a memory bloom," he explained. "It absorbs the emotional essence of events it witnesses. This one was present during the battle. It holds the grief, the courage, the sacrifice, all of it. We traditionally use them to remember moments of great significance." Sarah accepted the delicate bloom carefully. "Thank you, Thalin. I'll treasure it." As she prepared to board her shuttle, Sarah took one last look at the Ilari city. Already she could see small changes, subtle defensive measures being integrated into the beautiful architecture without diminishing its essential harmony. Change had come to this peaceful world, as it inevitably must to all civilizations that survive long enough. But unlike many species who learned warfare through bitter necessity against their neighbors, the Ilari had the unique opportunity to learn it from allies who valued peace as highly as they did strength. On the return journey to Earth, Sarah spent long hours in her quarters staring at the memory bloom Thalin had given her. Sometimes when the ship was quiet and her mind clear, she thought she could feel the emotions it contained, not just the expected grief and determination, but also hope, gratitude, and something that felt remarkably like growth. 3 months later, when the first Ilari delegation arrived on Earth, Sarah met them not as an admiral, but as their official liaison. Among them was Thalin, his skin now capable of hues she'd never seen during her time on his world. "Your planet is harsh," he observed as they stood overlooking the rugged landscape of the new Rockies. "I understand now why you're called Deathworlders. Everything here seems designed to challenge life. And yet life thrives," Sarah pointed out. "That's the lesson of Earth adaptation resilience." "The lesson of Ilari is harmony and connection," Thalin replied. "Perhaps together we create something greater than either alone." As they watched the sunset paint the mountains in shades of gold and crimson, Sarah thought about Captain Gray, about the crew of the Indomitable, about all those who had given their lives to protect a people they had never met. Their sacrifice had forged something unprecedented, the first alliance between Deathworlders and a civilization that had never known war. "Sometimes," she said quietly, "to preserve peace, you must learn to fight for it." Thalin's skin shifted to a color she now recognized as understanding. "And sometimes to fight effectively, you must understand the peace you're fighting for." In the years that followed, the Earth-Ilari Alliance became a model for interspecies cooperation across the galaxy. The Harvak, upon learning of the partnership, gave Ilari a wide berth in their future conquests. Other peaceful species, inspired by the Ilari's evolution, began seeking their own protective relationships with more martial civilizations. The Galactic Confederation, which had once dismissed the Ilari as not worth saving, found itself forced to reconsider its policies of non-intervention. The humans had demonstrated that sometimes the greatest strategic benefit came not from cold calculation, but from the simple willingness to help those in need. Admiral Sarah Kovac never returned to retirement. Instead, she established the first Interspecies Defense Academy, where beings from across the galaxy, warriors and pacifists alike, could learn from each other's strengths. On her desk in the Academy's central office sat 2 items: the faded photograph of her and David and Thalin's memory bloom, still glowing softly after all these years, a reminder that the most unlikely alliances often prove the most enduring. In the end, the legacy of the Battle of Ilari Prime wasn't measured in ships destroyed or territories defended, but in a simple truth that spread across the stars. True strength isn't found in domination, but in the willingness to stand beside those who cannot stand alone. The Deathworlders had come with a fleet, but they had left behind something far more powerful than weapons. They had planted the seeds of a new understanding of peace, one forged in the waters of sacrifice and tempered by the wisdom of those who had never known war until they had to face it. And throughout the galaxy, that new understanding bloomed like Thalen's memory flower, delicate yet resilient, a glowing testament to what could be achieved when the warriors who longed for peace joined hands with the peacekeepers who finally understood the need for protection.